So the news today is that Valdo Calocane could be claiming hundreds of pounds of benefits for him to spend on nice clothes, electronics, anything he likes really, whilst he's in a secure mental hospital. How has that made you feel?
It's just added insult to injury on top of everything else. To, you know, with the best will in the world, if this monster, as we refer to him, stays in for as long as we hope. I mean, we'd like it for the rest of his life, but I'm very fearful about hospital orders, having read everything in the past couple of weeks. But if he's in there for 30 years, say, he'll only be in his early 50s. No, yeah. He'll only be in his early 60s when he comes out, and he would have amassed, you know, because benefits will rise. But I worked out earlier, it could be anything up to £150,000. And on top of his his all-inclusive package that he's on, which also includes, lots of activities, lots of treatment, lots of therapy, and it's very, very patient. But where's the penal element of this? We don't agree it's manslaughter. So, like I say, it just adds insult to everything else that we've been saying, really.
Is there a sense that this monster's been sent to some kind of glorified holiday camp in a way?
Yeah, I don't want to be like an armchair expert on psychiatric hospitals or the law, but our families, and I say that on behalf of the 3 families of deceased people in Nottingham, we feel like we've had to come in and we've had to look into things because we just don't trust in the system. And I have seen the things in the newspaper and the links online of the facilities there, and it's a well-supported facility, isn't it, with everything that's on offer.
Yeah, and you mentioned there about being quite sceptical about these hospital orders, and you said that you've looked into them quite a bit.
Yeah.
What are you fearful of then? What do you think could happen? I mean, we did have a case a couple of weeks ago of some bloke who was also a killer who was out after just a couple of years. Is that the fear, really?
Yeah, spot on. That's exactly what it is, and that's exactly what we're terrified of, that this monster, this individual, could be out in society. And I think fearful for the public, but also that where's the sense of justice? He's a malicious, predetermined murderer, and he could be out in a number of years. I think we're being supported by a great organisation called 100 Families, and the chap that runs that's called Julian Hendy, whose dad was also murdered by knife crime from a paranoid schizophrenic. But this person got murder and got a murder charge. But Julian and I have been talking and looking at figures over the past couple of weeks, and he's more informed than me, but I believe the average term that's served for these indefinite orders is between 5 and 10 years. And that's terrifying, right, when you consider the brutality and the impact of what happened in Nottingham, not just on the 3 families who lost members, but also on those 3 other victims who've got life-changing injuries and long-term trauma. It's just not fair, quite frankly.
It's absolutely not fair. It's absolutely not justice at all. But it doesn't really appear to me that there's been much justice from start to finish on this. I mean, there's question marks as to whether or not this guy should have even been walking the streets. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying he was wanted anyway. And then he's been able to take the manslaughter charge and then into a hospital order. Look, obviously, incredibly difficult time for you, but how does it feel for you with that burning sense of injustice there as well?
Yeah, it's devastating. On top of tragedy, there's layers and layers and layers of trauma, and this final bit. And there's, as odd as this sounds, but when we were sat in Downing Street last Monday in front of the Prime Minister and the sort of top end of government ministers, and the first thing that we said was, we don't want to be here. We're actually really angry that we're here. I would like to have been invited to Downing Street maybe sometime in the future for a positive thing, not to talk about how devastated we are about how badly we've been treated. I also think the fact that we had an audience with Keir Starmer, the leader of the opposition, followed very shortly by Downing Street, that was turned around very, very quickly, does give us resolve that, there is something really wrong here, and it's been wrong for a very, very long time with this individual. individual. It's multi-agency failings, but we are not going to become experts. We have to now work with people that we do trust, and thankfully we trust the O'Malley Kumars and the Coates family, and we can work together. And I think we're strong because of that. But it does break my heart that we even have to do this, because we can't begin to grieve the loss of our precious son, because we're having to fight and garner what strength we've got left to make sure that we get listened to.
So what changes do you want to happen so that you feel as though you then can start to grieve?
Well, so we feel like vindicated. Oh gosh, where to start? Because I think if you look at it from a wider perspective, just looking at the failings in the health system, in mental health particularly, leading up to this event, the lack of communication between hospital trusts and police forces, the myth that Leicestershire had the month before he committed these murders. They didn't bother checking him on the computer properly. If they had, they would have seen the outstanding warrant and to see how serious it was. And I just think that all of it, it's difficult with this country because we're calling it for it in so many different ways, aren't we? But it has to, for the sake of the nation and the safety of the public, everything has to properly be looked at. From a personal family perspective, I can't have a time machine, so I want Valdo Calocane to be done for murder, because that's what he is. And if our legal system and clever barristers and defence teams and ineffective psychiatrists can make it work and make the legal system work as it has for us, then I would suggest the law's wrong and the law needs changing. And somebody very high up in the government said to us, just because it's law, Emma, it doesn't mean it's right. And just because it's the law, it doesn't mean that they always get it right. And I stand by that, and it gives me heart that we have so much momentum and so much movement, and that all three families are dedicated towards what we're asking for. But don't never fear that it's exhausting and it's taking its toll. But fight we will.
Fight you will, and so much support. Just one last one with you, Emma, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because as it currently stands, then the system, it would seem to me, is geared more towards maybe protecting the criminal than helping the families. Yeah. And also, until you get the kind of changes that you want, this could happen again, right?
I think this will happen again. And I would say from that perspective, it's a really valid point, Patrick. I'm glad you asked me, because victim support in this country, whilst there is some, it's wholly inadequate, and it's very, very much geared towards the defendant or perpetrator. As an example, in our family, there's Barney's younger brother, Charlie, there's David, my husband, and myself. We've been given a victim support caseworker, a wonderful woman who's been with us since about a week after. It's a bit late in coming. She's got 55 other families she has to look after. So we don't have non-stop contact. It's only Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. On top of that, the therapy that we are offered, we're allowed to have 12 paid for sessions each. And then after that, you're on your own. So Calocane can sit and be rewarded potentially with £300-400 a month, on top of everything else that it's cost to keep him alive after his murder of my son. But we could be faced with, if we want to try and survive this through no fault of our own, putting ourselves through therapy, I don't know, £50-80 a session, whatever it is, times that by 3, times that by however long it's going to take. You can do the maths. I can see why victims and victims' families lose. As I said in a quote this week, I think I can see why relationships fail, why businesses fail, and why sometimes people themselves lose themselves or even their lives, because it's that bad. And really, we need to be fully supported. So I do call for a complete overhaul of that too. But it just feels like we've got so much to say. We've got to deal with it bit by bit at the moment.
Well, Emma, can I just say thank you very, very much for coming on the show and for articulating that so well and for being so strong and brave about it all. I really hope that we can talk again, and I really hope that you can get the change that you want. And if there's any way whatsoever that we can help with anything in that regard, then really we would love to be a part of that with you. So thank you very, very much, Emma, and love to you and all the family as well. So take care.
Thank you, and to you. Thanks, Patrick.